What's good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis here. Coming to y'all with a quick video today. We're going to talk about the Defensive Player of the Year award that was won by perimeter players like Kawhi Leonard twice and Draymond Green once last year. I thought that we'd see a perimeter player win it. An inside guy win it last year. Obviously, I was wrong. Anthony Davis made a case. Obviously, I thought Rudy Gobert was going to win it, but they ended up giving it to Draymond Green. Draymond Green has still been an exceptional defender this year, still being able to switch, control the paint even though he's undersized, get steals, get key stops. Because remember, when you're going against the Warriors, especially in the fourth quarter, they can be tough to beat because they got KD and Steph, but also you have to score on Draymond and Kevin Durant, and they can get those steals, get out and run and get blocks, and that leads to fast break and open threes, and that means you can go from being down 1 to 4 to 5 to 10 quickly against the Warriors. So he definitely is an important key to that team, not just because of his defense, but that's a major part, especially when a game slows down and you have to execute in a half court against a team like the Warriors that got superstars offensively, but they also can play a little bit of defense. And then you obviously got Kevin Durant, a guy that said, I wanted to play hard. I wanted to play hard on defense because I didn't want to get embarrassed. I didn't want people showing me out. And, when you get averaging 30 points a game for a couple of seasons, everybody want to score on you. Everybody want to prove a point. Everybody want to go against you. And especially because, Kevin Durant is not really back then a guy that wanted to pick fights and argue and fight. He was just a guy out there doing him, playing this game and being cool, calm, and collective. And he has made a run this year as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate because of his insight. He always been a decent individual defender. Even if you go back to his OKC days, even if you go back to the finals days, he always been a solid on-ball defender, a solid rotation defender. Not great, not amazing, but solid. And him adding more want, more effort, more just he wants to prove that he can be an all defensive player, and it does help when you got a guy like Kawhi Leonard out for the year. That opens up a spot, especially for the Defensive Player of the Year in the All NBA defensive team, especially for that forward spot. Kevin Durant probably can creep in there because he has been exceptional with his rotations. Switching. He has been able to control people, even point guards, even some, he's been able to guard 1, 2, 3, and 4, and sometimes the 5 because of his ability to make up a lot of ground and contest shots. And he's so long and lanky, he don't even have to jump really to block a lot of shots, especially from point guards and shooting guards, and his ability to switch off and still be able to catch up off dribble. We all gave credit to LeBron James when he started doing a chase down block, but Kevin Durant, it's just hard to score on him in general, let alone get past him. And if you do, he has that reach and that length to block shots without even jumping that high. And then you got another guy in Paul George has been exceptional. Robertson would have been in this conversation because he was very pivotal in that OKC scheme and that OKC defense. He wasn't a good offensive player, but he makes James Harden struggle. And if you call him James Harden an MVP, if you say he should have won 2 out of 3 the last couple of years, when you watch Andre Robertson guard James Harden, he struggles. And he's very disciplined. He's very smart. He's athletic. And he doesn't bite on fakes. And he stays in front of his guy. One of the best on-ball defenders is Robertson. And he always made James Harden struggle when they play against the Thunder. And that's one of the best offensive players in the league that's struggling. James Harden averaging over 25 points for the last couple years, and he's struggling against Robertson. And then you also got Paul George, I want to talk about quickly, pairing him up with Robertson. They can guard anybody on the perimeter. And Paul George's ability to have length, to have the size, to have the athleticism and the quickness, but still be able to play in the passing lanes with that length. He's always watching at the corner of his eye and behind him and around him. So when you think you have him beat, when you think you have an angle, when you think you have a pass, he just pops out of nowhere, gets to steal, get in transition with Corey Brewer, with Russell Westbrook. And those guys are tough to stop because of their running ability and the ability to cover up a lot of ground. And you don't want to turn the ball over. You don't want to make the mistake, but he's just so good at picking your pocket. I remember when he played against the Washington Wizards and Bradley Beal thought he had a bucket. Paul George reached right behind him and just stole the ball right out of his hand, and that sealed the W versus the Wizards which helped them get to the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami, and that was the year that Indiana was favored. They was the number one seed in the East, and they fell off a little bit at the second half of the season. But Paul George came up with pivotal plays defensively, and that makes him hard to guard. I mean, hard to score on because of that length and that size and that athletic ability. And he hasn't really lost that much of a step even after the broken leg. But we don't talk about Joel Embiid because I'm not really on the Sixers bandwagon, but you have to respect what they have done. Trust in the process, coming from a team that sucked for many years, then to having Nerlens Noel, Jaleel, Embiid, Ben Simmons, Saric, and all these big guys. And you knew they couldn't all play together. That's why they started trading a lot of them for picks that they might not even use. But for them to fill out the roster and Joel Embiid to show how much he was important to that team last year when he played, they was winning and blowing out teams. He was able to cover a lot of space. He was able to guard the pick and roll, guard switches because he had a lot of effort and energy. And he really cared about playing defense, and he still does. He's not averaging as many blocks as he did last year, which was 2.5. This year he averaging 1.8. But one thing I will say is that Joel Embiid has still had a monumental impact on the Sixer defense, and he's pivotal and very important to that winning success and that culture in Philadelphia. And he a tough nail guy. He does sacrifice his body a lot, which is sometimes going to be troubling because he came off a foot injury and knee injuries. You don't want to be banging your body and getting stepped up on and jumping in the air and they coming down on your body. But one thing I can say, Joel Embiid, for him to come through those injuries and to fight through injuries and to continue to play and still perform at an All NBA All Star level night, every night consistently, and he's willing to go in there and play the best defense he can, even with all the injury history. You have to give him a lot of credit for being confident, for knowing his game, and knowing how great of a player that he will be and can be, and staying positive throughout the midst of the bullshit. But at the same time, I like that he still plays fearless, and I like that he plays like he cares. And people don't really care about defense. It sounds goofy, it sounds stupid because you have to play both sides of the ball. But most NBA players don't come in wanting to be defenders. They want to come in and score. They want to come in and shoot threes. They want to come in and be a star. They don't care about being a two-way player. They don't care about dominating defensively. Most players in the draft just want to score. They size, they athletic, but most of them don't play defense. If you ever listen to podcasts and other people around the world, one of the number one things you hear about NBA players, well, he don't play defense. Well, he not a good defender. Well, he don't play defense, not a good defender. And you hear that so often when it comes to the NBA that most people care about the one side, getting assists, getting points, and shooting goddamn threes and getting out in transition. But you never hear about players that want to play defense. But when Joel Embiid did come into the league, he was a guy that they said that he's Hakeem Olajuwon. I didn't really like that comparison, and I still really don't, because all he really does is post up in the high post and shoot fadeaway jumpers. He posts up every once in a while, and he shoots a lot of twos and threes. And his post game, this is not as fluid and versatile as Hakeem, but I do see the sort of the comparison because he can defend, he can pass, even though he pass different because he don't really pass out the post as much as doing handoffs. So I guess he has some type of Hakeem in him, but I don't really like the comparison to me. But at the same time, for him to come back and get healthy and still play hard on both ends of the court, and even though he was fighting through injuries and he had to get back in NBA shape, it's tough out here. And he was able to fight all those demons and come back and play his game and make the impact. Would I pick him for Defensive Player of the Year? I don't know because I'm still a Gobert guy. Like I said, I feel like he should have won last year. But Gobert has missed a lot of games because of injuries. He has had a huge impact. He has had a great thing. And he came back and the defense is still up there. And they're back in the playoff picture, something that they weren't even close a couple months ago. They were losing so much. And he came back, and now they went back up to being one of the top teams in the Western Conference, defensively. And you have to give a lot of credit to Rudy Gobert for that, but you also got to give credit to the other big man in Joel Embiid because he still has been able to stay healthy and still anchor that defense through all the injuries. So I like both of them. I will obviously pick Rudy Gobert. Joel Embiid is the better all-around player. Rudy Gobert to me is a better schematic player because he's more disciplined and he's more smarter right now. But remember, he played more years. He has more experience than Joel Embiid. And for Joel Embiid to only start playing later in his life, and to get this far and get this good, he's a student of the game. He's a sponge for the game, and eventually he will probably, just like Anthony Davis, 1 year, if he get the right players around him and he get the right scheme and coach around him, Joel Embiid can hold up this Defensive Player of the Year, and this could be the year. And same with Rudy Gobert, the way he's playing, the way Anthony Davis is playing, getting steals and blocks. And you got to give credit to Joel Embiid, averaging 8.4 defensive rebounds a game. People never factor in rebounding when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year, but it does play a part, because part of your job is to stop your opponent and box out to finish the possession. Finishing the possession is getting the possession, which is rebounding the ball. Whether you get transition or not, you still got to play good enough defense to stop them from scoring, but you still got to close out the possession, and that's what defensive rebounding is. And that's important when you counting it with Anthony Davis, with Rudy Gobert, and Joel Embiid. Those things are important to the game. And that's something that all three of them does. Anthony Davis does a little bit more. He tries a little harder. He cares a little bit more than them, but he just don't have the players around him that he can have perimeter length and size, and a scheme. He don't have the scheme or the personnel that Rudy Gobert has, and Joel Embiid has defensively, especially on the perimeter. But Anthony Davis only can do so much, and that's why he hasn't won Defensive Player of the Year, because he only can carry the defense so much by himself. His other players still got to buy into that concept. And Joel Embiid and Rudy Gobert, to me, has the better team and the better coaches to do that, and they have been proving that for the last couple of years. Let me know who you guys think is going to be Defensive Player of the Year. Do you think Joel Embiid should win it? Do you think it should go to Paul George? Do you think it should go back to Draymond Green back to back? Do you think it should go to Rudy Gobert like I do? Like I said, his biggest flaw is that he didn't play that many games this year, but he has changed the culture and he has changed the team since he has been back healthy. And I went to go see Rudy Gobert this year at the Bucks game, and he lived up to the billing. And let me know if you got anybody else like Robertson that he missed out too many games now, and you got Ben Simmons getting steals and blocks. You have a lot of players trying to be two-way players now, and that's important to the game, especially for the future, because people always preaching offense, preaching scoring, but you very rarely hear players coming into the league and superstars in the league playing hard on the defensive end. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and if you like the video, I'm gone.